Good afternoon, folks. Here we are for our Friday update. Unfortunately, for those of us here in New South Wales, we've had some bad news today, possibly going to get worse depending on what the Premier decides to do next week, whether it's going to be extended past this next Friday. But we'll go straight to David Batty to let us know what the restrictions coming into place at 5 o'clock this evening, I believe, David.
Yeah, the change in restrictions relate to the amount of people that are allowed to congregate for the purpose of fitness. It's now down from 10 to 2 people. And for those 2 people, you're not allowed to travel outside of your local government area or 10 kilometres. So we're waiting on the exact wording from the actual restrictions, but they haven't been printed yet. So we're waiting on those exact words, but they were from the Premier's mouth.
Yeah, incredibly frustrating. That's been the situation for the outdoor exercise groups. I drove past one this morning in the park. The guys are doing everything correct, had masks on even though it wasn't required and so on. But anyway, that's what it is. We're having to pay the price here for this variant and for some other Sydney-siders not doing the right thing to get it under control. But anyway, be that as it may. As I indicated just at the start there, the Premier indicated at her press conference this morning that unless there is significant improvement by next Friday, it will be extended beyond that. So the pressure is on everybody here in New South Wales now to do the right thing. I know that our members do the right thing, but please encourage anyone else in the community to do the right thing as well. David, any other changes to the Eastern Seaboard since we last spoke during the week?
There's going to be a change in the ACT around face masks. Face masks will no longer become mandatory indoors as of this evening, so tomorrow morning. So that's one change from that Eastern Seaboard. Victoria's had a change in that now you can have 2 square metres per person if you're using a COVID check-in marshal rather than a COVID marshal. So the COVID marshal ruling relates, the COVID check-in marshal, it relates to somebody whose basically whole and sole purpose is to make sure that everybody is QR checked in. That can be your receptionist, anybody else in Victoria. So that's a bit of a win because you're down to 2 square metres if you are able to have somebody there to make sure that everybody is checked in.
Okay, and Tassie and the ACT unchanged since last update?
Tassie's unchanged. ACT's got the face mask change there, and we're expecting some changes up in Queensland coming up as well around face masks.
Thanks, David. Steve, I believe you've got some good news from the Northern Territory side.
Yeah, so Northern Territory removed all remaining restrictions as of 1 p.m. today, which means that gyms are back open and back open fully, so no restrictions on gyms at this stage, which is a great result. We're still waiting to hear back. We've requested a meeting and had some correspondence with the Chief Health Officer over there in the NT. We're looking for a meeting hopefully sometime next week to discuss things there. Our hope from that meeting would be that if something like this did happen again, touch wood, that there wouldn't be, I suppose, an all or nothing approach to gyms. As we've seen in all other states, there's an ability to sort of scale things back if it is necessary to do that. And we'd suggest that that would be the more appropriate course of action, again, if something did happen in the Northern Territory moving forward. So we'll keep pushing with that one. No changes to South Australia. Everything is open here. And in WA, I believe we spoke about this on Tuesday. There's been no changes since then, but essentially classes are allowed to resume, so which is really positive. Indoor classes. We have no masks required during vigorous exercise as well. It's 150 cap and a 2 square metre density rule. So the hope is that on Monday there'll be an announcement, provided there's no further cases, that all restrictions will be lifted in WA, which is again really positive.
That's good. It's good to see the rest of Australia having some positive news. So, David, there's been a couple of questions coming already on New South Wales, not surprisingly.
Yeah, so let's start with the first one that came in. The outdoor training, will that be 2 people plus an instructor? No, that's 2 people are allowed to congregate. So it's just a total of 2 people that can congregate. Second question around regional, there is no changes to any of the requirements for regional. They are actually staying exactly the same. A question around travel. From what we understand so far, it looks like they're trying to keep everybody within their 10 kilometres. And as we're not essential workers, I don't believe we'll be able to travel outside of our 10 kilometres to train clients, but that will have to come as a part of the order. So that hasn't been written yet, so we can't quite give you a definitive answer, but that is what I understand the ruling to be. When do we need QR code check-in for Queensland? You need it as of today. So as of today for Queensland, everybody requires QR check-in across the whole of the state. So it's not just Gold Coast, but everywhere in Queensland.
And the mask for PT sessions?
Well, most PT sessions, there a high chance of you being within a very close proximity of people. So we'd always recommend, especially in New South Wales, regional areas, to wear masks. When it comes to other areas, it's going to be up to you. But if you cannot keep your distance, it is required that you wear a mask. In Victoria, masks are still required indoors as well. So unless you're in an area where you're not facing customers.
Okay, Linda has asked a question, is Fitness Australia going to try and do anything about the COVID support not being available to contractors turning over less than 75K? I'm not sure which state we're talking about there, Linda. Or if
that would be New South Wales.
New South Wales, yeah. So we will take that up with the powers that be, particularly now that it's been extended. We need to be able to do what we can to get what support we can. Thanks, Linda. We've got that to see what we can get some sort of support coming through there. David, is that tied into, as far as you know, being eligible for GST, or is it separate to that?
It's separate to that. So unless that's a question around Victoria, because if it's Victoria, it is because of GST. It's not a requirement to earn more than 75,000 to register for GST, but the basic ruling is that you need to be able to put into the fund to take from the fund. So people who have been paying GST will be able to claim their taxes back, basically.
Yeah, no,
is the way it's thought of in the state governments.
Linda's in New South Wales, so
okay.
After this call, I will reach out to the Treasurer here in New South Wales and ask that question, and hopefully get an answer that we can then, hopefully a positive answer, but something we can post up on our socials. There's been no other questions come through, guys, so I guess people...
There was a quick question that came up in the chat around households. So if you're going to exercise with your household, that is fine, but you are still not allowed to congregate in greater than 2 people, or just that household. So I would say that you would not be able to, from my understanding, train a household, being a personal trainer, and train a whole household, husband, wife, anything like that. They're really trying to reduce the movement. Even going to the shops now, you're only allowed to have 1 person go to the shops. So this is the deadly serious time where we really want to get everybody to be on the same page so that you guys get out of lockdown quicker.
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic. I was over doing some grocery shopping this morning, and I noticed that, this is in Sydney, I noticed that Harvey Norman was open, and I thought, what the hell is going on here? What's that got to do with essential shopping? But anyway, question coming from Lyndon. Does Fitness Australia, the fitness industry, have a position on the COVID vaccine, as my associates in allied health were strongly encouraged? I was actually asked this question probably about a month ago by the media. Would Fitness Australia support mandating vaccines, having to be, people having to have vaccines before they could come into a gym? That's a really tricky question, because in this country we have very strong views on vaccination or not vaccinating and so on. So I really think that at this stage it's probably something we don't want to enter into, because if we were to go out as an industry association and say we support compulsory vaccination, I can absolutely guarantee we would get hammered within 5 seconds of that. Unfortunately, as I said, here in Australia, there seems to be a whole lot of different messages and perceptions, and whether people think they have the need for it or whatever. Don't get me started on the politics of it, because we'll be here all afternoon. But at this stage, we don't have a position. Let me just say, though, that I've had my vaccine, my first one anyway, and I would encourage anyone who's considering getting a vaccine to get it sooner rather than later, assuming it is available, which of course is a big assumption. And as someone said there, everyone makes their own choice at the end of the day, and I think that's 100% right. Okay, I'll just check the Q&A before we dial out, guys. No more there. Okay, Thanks again for tuning in. Just some news hot off the press for those that may have been thinking that they were going to attend either the Filex Trainers Summit this year or the Filex Business Summit this year, the face-to-face. I'm pretty sure that later on today there'll be a public announcement that both those events have been cancelled until next year. They're not going to shift to a virtual one. They're going to hold them over for a face-to-face event next year, is my understanding. So watch this space if you're intending on going on to one of those events because of the COVID situation. Another event that has been cancelled. Stay safe, stay warm if you're in New South Wales, and hopefully when we tune in next week, we might be able to have something a little bit more positive that we can share with you all from New South Wales particularly. The rest of the country seems to be getting its act together, and that's good for our members in those states, and hopefully New South Wales can rejoin you soon. But stay safe, and we'll speak to you next week. Thank you.
See yous.